Not everyone's a morning person yet, but with Costa Vita's new breakfast tacos, everyone will be. You can try our bacon, egg, and cheese or specialties like the machaca beef and egg or sweet pork, egg, and cheese. Stop by our drive-thru any day from 7 to 10:30 a.m. Order online through the Costa Vita app or website. Become a morning person at Costa Vita. And churros. They now have churros, and you can have them for breakfast. That's our friend Holly down there in South College Station. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station, and it is the Buzz Williams Show. In Buzz's mind, this is show number 2 because we did a banquet. We did the luncheon together. So he's considering this show number 2.
Yes,
Rick,
and when we do the next Blair Buddies on Tuesday the 14th, that counts
That's going to count as 3 for you.
3,
Yeah.
but I think it'll count as 4 because we have a show on that Monday, the 12th.
Right. Yeah. So you're going to
I've
have
already approved it with, what's the group that?
Ventures? Texas A&M Ventures? They're the ones. They're the money makers, baby. They're the ones who bring it in. I thought you were going to say Corey because I'm thinking if we're talking bosses.
She would prefer to do this.
She's not the only one, Buzz. No, I'm kidding you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Coach, before we get to this year, really our first opportunity from what I thought was a negative to a positive, that run through the NIT, the way you got to spoil this group and the way they spoiled you to get to New York, the NIT final, the way this group came together. If you could, just some final thoughts to put some punctuation on last season.
Yeah, I think there's a book that says what was meant for harm can be turned to good. And I think that for sure happened over the last 5 games of the season. Very appreciative of the administration for allowing the community to come for free. I think that gained a lot of traction. It meant a lot to our program. It meant a lot specifically to our players. The atmosphere was incredible. Great game day environment. Extra practices a week in New York. Wish the last 4 seconds didn't end the way that it did. We played 40 games. That's the second highest number of games ever in Division I history. 2011, UConn played 41. That was the year they won the national championship. So to be able to get that type of experience in games, in practice, you can't quantify that. We didn't finish until March the 31st. That was that Thursday, and then traveled back on Friday. So there were only 6 teams playing at that time. I understand we were in the tournament with 3 letters instead of 4, but a lot of good stuff. And I hope that, we can somewhat begin this year the way the momentum carried us the last 14 games of last year. The one thing that I've thought about, not specific to the run, but I think it speaks to the character of the players, and I think it speaks to how their parents raised them. I think it speaks to the togetherness of the staff. What happened before that and how they were able to stay together, to me, speaks more glowingly than the wins that transpired after. We lost 8 games in a row. We didn't win a game for 1 consecutive month. 4 of those 8 games were decided by 1 or 2 possessions. And I think to show up every day during that month and then have whatever adjective you would like to use, the resiliency to respond when things weren't going your way, and then to turn it into to win 12 out of the last 14. And some of the things that transpired in playing in the NIT we couldn't control. It was the first question I was asked at SEC Media Day. I didn't completely say it because I didn't want to say it, but I didn't sleep after we got beat in the championship game. And the only person I talked to was Corey. I didn't respond to any text. I turned my phone off. I didn't watch any games, not our games, not in preparation for the NIT. Just studied all of what I wanted to say. I never said an individual's name. I never said another institution's name. And I was very aware of what would be coming towards me relative to my career, and all of the tweets and texts and DMs that would not receive that information in the right way. But I said what I said because I believe that if you can't stand up for the people that do all of the work, then there's holes in your armor in regards to being a leader. And I think we've digested that in the right way. We've been very upfront with one another in the program specific to that. But the further I get away from it, not the diatribe by me, not the wins, not the crazy shot that Xavier hit to win it. What I respect the most is how everyone in our program, regardless of their title or position or talent, that they were tough enough to even get us to that point. And I think that as the years transpire and the relationships that were built, not when things were going good and you win 12 out of 14, but the real relationships that were built at a very deep level when you lost 8 in a row, because you learned so much. And I think our guys learned what really matters the most. And sometimes, because the world moves so fast, we all get caught up in things that may not matter the most. But we learned and leaned on one another in that month. And so as the good things were transpiring in that last 14-game stretch, it was almost like some of that was water off a duck's back, because it's like, yeah, we're not going to participate in that. We're not going to partake in that. And I think from a maturity standpoint, I think that'll always be beneficial to all of our lives for the rest of our lives.
You have said this, and Jimbo has said it as well. Every team has a lifespan of about 6 months. You can have guys stay for 4 years, but that one team is only together for that season. And to me, it was as if these teammates did not want this season to end. So to play 40 times seemed to be special. It was, we get to practice again, we get to play again. And that was also special to watch.
Yeah, some of the things that I would say to you and Coach after the game, we're thankful we won, but a lot of the fight and the grit, or all of those words, it was just because you didn't want it to end. You know, like sometimes coaches will say that they don't enjoy winning as much as the pain that comes with losing. You know, that when you win, it just gives you an opportunity maybe to breathe. But when you lose, you feel like you can't breathe. And I think there was, in an unspoken way and in a way that most of our guys wouldn't be able to articulate, yes, they wanted to win. I'm not taking that away. But a lot of the tenacity that was shown and the intensity that was played with was that they just wanted to be together the next day, whatever the next day was, whether it was another game, whether it was another practice, whether it was travel. And there's a specialness that comes from, let's just do it for one another so we can be together again tomorrow, whatever tomorrow brings.
Yeah, it was just fantastic. And again, good people. We talked about this and a number of them coming back. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about foresight as well for this upcoming season when we have more of the Buzz Williams Show from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Stay with us. This is Aggie Basketball from Learfield. All Hands Craft Cocktails is a new bar-strength canned cocktail made with 6 times distilled vodka and 10% ABV to make sure you never have to sacrifice the quality of your drink. All Hands Craft Cocktails, founded by Aggies and a proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. This is the Buzz Williams Show. We are at Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station as we tip things off. And Friday, 7 p.m., Reed Arena. It will be an exhibition game against A&M Kingsville. Your friend is the head coach.
I think this will be the last year of that. That'll be our 4th year.
Yeah.
of playing Texas A&M in Kingsville, and when you vote for a president, the term is 4 years, and Johnny is my friend, but he's not the president.
Right.
So I'm going to tell him before the game because he doesn't know how to listen to this. It's a swan song. This is the last rodeo.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
7 o'clock. It is free. Come on out. Your first look at this team, and we're really excited to Buzz, you and your staff did it again. You brought in some really quality people, but you also, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you got some real dudes on this team.
Yeah, I think our staff has been phenomenal. It's a new model of college athletics, and everybody seems to be entitled to their opinion of what's right and what's wrong. Nobody really knows, in truth. NIL started 18 months ago. The transfer portal, in essence, started 2 springs ago. I don't think anybody's figured it out in any sport. And it's such an inexact science, and there's no data or evidence in the past to go, this is the way to build a program going forward. But I think I've had more meetings over the last 20 months than I've had in the previous 14 years as a head coach. Just listening to the thoughts and the explanations of our staff, their opinions, and then I think we've done a really good job, they have, of diagnosing it from studying different components. And I think when you look at last spring, not this past spring, but 2 springs ago, we signed 8 players all over Zoom. So we never got to see them face-to-face. They never got to see us face-to-face on our campus. And in many respects, we were starting over. We just went off a really bad year. Not only win-losses, but we didn't play a game in the month of February. A lot of things were out of our control, like how COVID impacted everyone. And so last year, even though it was year 3 in our tenure, in many respects, it was year 1 in regards to we started completely over the roster, how we played on defense, how we played on offense. And I think that this spring, that was the first time we were able to go in person. And I think that how you utilize the days of research, gathering intel, studying every player in Division I, because I know Twitter says that you can only transfer once. That's incorrect. You can transfer every year. And so you have to be aware of every Division I player. And so whether you're preparing for an opponent or you are practicing or you are playing, there's 360 teams and 13 players on each team that you need to be studying, that you need to be aware of, that you need to have a little bit of an idea of their sphere of influence. And I think all of our staff was accountable in how they utilized those hours. But then I think the next piece is accruing talent is one thing. Accruing talent that translates and fits into your daily regimen is another. And I think that's where our staff has been superb. And we have tried to pick up on patterns. That's what we call it. There's good patterns and there's bad patterns. And when we see a pattern, let's play that out. Let's confirm that's a good pattern. Let's play it out. That's a bad pattern. And let's not emotionally get so involved that we can't be truthful with one another. That's a bad pattern. I've invested a lot of time. I know all the people. We might could get him. It's a bad pattern. And then in real time, because with the portal, it's happening per minute. I mean, somebody's going in the portal per minute, and you got to be on a plane and go see them, and you got to figure out how you can get them on a plane to come see you if you want, and then you need to go see their parents potentially. In my opinion, you should. And then you probably need to go see their coaches if that's important to them. And our staff did really good on here is the entire group, but here's the pool of applicants that we believe their character will translate to how we work every day. Within that pool, they do fit what we believe we're deficient in that we need to improve on. And so you can look at, I think it's, I studied all of this and TJ helped me with it. It's an astronomical number. It's like 37% of the league transferred.
Wow.
And so in Division I, if 37% transferred, okay, what group fits how we operate every day? Okay, well, that drastically reduces it. Mm-hmm. Okay, now what group of that group fits what we need from a talent standpoint? That drastically reduces it. So, like you are recruiting at a very fast rate at a high volume, but as soon as you can get locked in on they fit from a character standpoint, they fit what we need from a talent standpoint, you have to go all in. But while going all in, you have to be willing to go, that one doesn't fit, let's move on. And our staff held one another accountable in regards to this one fits, let's keep going. This one doesn't fit, we got to end it and keep moving. And it's such a topsy-turvy, constantly changing per hour, even when you're in the air. Hey, we go see Andrew, and then we get on the plane, we're like, I like Andrew. Let's get in touch with Andrew's mom. And then by the time we land, Andrew's committed to XYZ. Oh, well, I guess we don't have to call his mom. Who's the next Andrew? Mm-hmm. And so I don't know that we're going about it right, but I can say we signed 2 players last November. Eric Pratt, junior college player with 3 years because of COVID. Solomon Washington, who was Louisiana Player of the Year. And then we signed 4 transfers, 3 of which have multi-years. Dexter Dennis, who was a graduate transfer from Wichita State. But Julius Marble, KK Robinson, Andy Garcia, Dexter Dennis, Solomon Washington, Eric Pratt. We haven't played a game yet, but we've had 23 practices. We've had 9 early birds. We've had boot camp. We've had training camp. We've had 10 individuals with buzz at the Lincoln Center. From a character standpoint, they have been very receptive, and the adults in their sphere knew before anything took place, this is how we operate. And I think you're going to miss on a lot of players, and you have to know that. But I think it's so important that if you're going to try to have some continuity and you're going to try to build, I feel like one of the reasons we had success at Virginia Tech, considering what Virginia Tech was when we got there and what it was when we left, is in that 5-year period we had the lowest transfer rate in the ACC. And so sometimes the rankings really don't matter, because over time there's no rankings on this is what you were upon arrival. And through your daily effort and development on and off the floor, this is what you are in year 2. This is what you are in year 3. And so it doesn't mean that one way is right, and it doesn't mean that one way is wrong. It just means that you have to have some comfort level. I believe. I have to have some comfort level in whom I'm around every day. You still have to coach. You still have to practice. You still have to talk to them at timeouts. You still have to talk to them at halftime. And I'm better when I have a real relationship and I can go, do you want me to call your mom and tell her what's going on? Or do you not want me to call your mom? Mm-hmm. Why don't you call your mom? Because if I call your mom, she's going to be with me because I told your mom this was coming. And it's not a tattletale situation, but the player knows, because the player knows that the relationship was real from the beginning. And so I don't know if we're going about it the right way, but I do know that our staff has been ultra consistent in how we've went about it, and they have developed our own HDI intelligence of how we want to go about this character, this talent. This translates to how we work each day. And going forward, whether it works or not, I'm at peace because we're going about it in a way that I haven't sacrificed what I believe to be most important.
He's Buzz Williams, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. More of the Buzz Williams Show when we return. This is Aggie basketball from Learfield. Basketball and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood, and Rudy's smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs in 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com. The Buzz Williams Show rolls on from Rudy's, 504 Harvey Road here in College Station. Last season, Buzz, it was rooted. This season, it is foresight, and I brought some props. Thank you very much for sending these to me. If you would, explain foresight and how that applies to your team this year.
Yeah, so just a little bit of context. Our graduate assistant is going to bring some of the ones that we have, and I'll pass out to you guys at the break. But every year in my head coaching career, we have a theme, and associated with the theme is a logo. And then each year, there are 12 quote shirts. And those 12 quote shirts are specific to that year and that theme. But the quote shirt is just a lesson for their life. And so if you stay 40 years, you get 48 quote shirts, 48 lessons. If for some reason you redshirt and stay 5, that would be 60. And so in our locker room is year 1 and the 12 quote shirts. And you remember year 1 was going to the moon. JFK, when he started NASA, visited NASA, introduced himself to the janitor, and he had taken off his shirt and tie. He wasn't with the Secret Service. He was just walking around, and he was introducing himself saying, "Hi, I'm John." And so he's going into each office, and he went in, and a janitor was cleaning the office, and he said, "Hey, I'm John. What's your name and what do you do?" And the janitor said, "My name's Mark, and we're going to the moon." And so I told our team, "Hey, nobody knows if we're any good, and we're not supposed to be any good. So if anybody asks you what we're going to do, tell them we're going to the moon." Year 2 was Win in the Dark. There's an author who's a friend of mine who's written several books. One of them was called Win in the Dark. That came out during COVID, and our players weren't here, and so we did a book club. And each week we did a Zoom and went over a chapter in Win in the Dark. Obviously, COVID was a dark time. Last year was Rooted. That was the series. But it was year 3, and your roots determine your fruits. And so Josh has always helped me with this. Josh is on my staff. This is Josh's 6th year, and the ideas have been better since he's been on staff than they were when it was just me, and the graphics are way better. But this year is foresight, and I taught it to our team, and when I initially taught it to our team, that's what the flash drive is. But foresight is the ability to predict what will be needed in the future. And another word, obviously, is wisdom. And so based on your first question in the first segment, last year, the run, the 8-game losing streak, the NIT Final Four, et cetera, how can we have foresight from what we learned last year and have wisdom to be able to predict what we're going to need in the future? And so I taught it specific to life, but gave examples that pertain to last year, specific examples. And so thus far, we've had 2 quote shirts. And when the player gets the quote shirt, the logo, which is an eye and a weird-looking for foresight, is somewhere on the T-shirt. And foresight is just wisdom. And you sometimes can accrue wisdom through experience, but smart people are able to accrue wisdom from listening to people that have walked on that path before. And I've been very fortunate in my life, not just with coaches, rarely coaches, most of the time other people who have been willing to mentor me on the path that I would like to walk as a husband, as a father, as a leader. And can I listen to their wisdom on that path that they've already walked, and they're way, way ahead of me. And that's kind of what this is. We would like to do something that we haven't done since we've been here. And so we have to have foresight, understanding that all of the people that are here, we have never done it together. And so we have to be transparent with one another, but we have to be willing to receive what is being said. And that's foresight. And so it's caught on really good. And with the text exchange with our team that I have, I will at times try to text them things that require them to look ahead and to think through before you say this, before you do this, have foresight. And so, the emoji, the number 4, and then the single eye emoji. And so it's caught track a little faster. So, a flashlight can only illuminate 8 to 12 feet, and that's part of foresight. Let's just keep our vision right in front of us. Let's quit talking about year number 3. It was a lot of fun. And let's not talk about where we want to be in March because we haven't walked the steps. Let's just be present, be where our feet are. That was one of the things I mentioned to them at the end of practice today. When you go to your grandparents' house, what do they talk about? And they're like, they just talk about the past. And I go, yeah, old people tend to talk about the past. And I said, when you guys were in high school, what were you talking about? And they were like, the future. I go, yeah, you were talking about what you're living right now. Old people talk about the past. Young people talk about the future. Wise people live in now. We need to have wisdom. You don't want to go into the last week of practice that we have that doesn't have a game. And we're just biding time, waiting on next Monday. That's what social media is saying. Hey, man, we're so excited about the season. Yeah, we are too. But we can't give away the days between now and next Monday. And that's foresight.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm excited. How can you not be?
Have foresight.
Absolutely.
Monaco.
Absolutely. He is Buzz Williams. It's the Buzz Williams Show. We have more to come. Stay with us. This is Aggie Basketball from Learfield. Continuing the Buzz Williams Show here at Rudy. So glad that you are with us. You had a chance. You talked about the SEC Media Days for the Aggies. Got a chance to get together, and you brought Henry Coleman III, and you brought Boots, and you all took that by storm. For someone like you mentioned bringing those guys in via Zoom, and then Buzz, they've embraced Texas A&M, and then they've taken that step into leaders, haven't they? Both of them. It's nice to be able to have those two, not just what they say, but what they do each day.
Sure. Yeah, those guys did a great job at Media Day. I'm not old, but I'm getting closer to old than I am young, and I'm a little non-energetic when it comes to Media Day. But those guys are excited, and so it's refreshing. And we, upon arrival, I go one direction with a chaperone, and they go a different direction. And so I never see them until we get to one thing that we do together. But I don't know. We have multiple guys from a representation standpoint that would be great at Media Day. But those two were fabulous. And similar to what you said, there's a difference in saying what you should do and doing what you should do. But when your words and your life match up and you have that combination, that's the key. And we're trying to grow more and more of those. You can only be so good when it's a coach-led team. When it's a player-led team, that means the players have as much ownership in the organization as the coaches. And we're not there yet, but we're for sure trending that way. I think that's how we try to teach. We try to give them as much ownership as possible. We had early bird number 9 this morning, and yes, there are some points that our staff wants to make from Saturday scrimmage, but then there's also points that we want to allow them to make. And so sometimes in that type of setting, it takes longer in regards to real time because you're allowing more voices to be heard. But when there are multiple player voices, not multiple coach voices, over time, that's how you create the ownership that you want in an organization. And Henry and Boots are for sure a very good example of that. But I think we got some more guys that are on that path. 4 is entering his second fall semester. Mo's entering his second fall semester, and like those guys are growing not just in their game, but they're growing in their commitment to the ownership of the program. And that's what you want. And sometimes that means I say less because I allow the staff to have more ownership. Sometimes that means I say less because the staff has more ownership and the players have more ownership. But to some degree, the less I say and the more they say, it's a paradox. It seems like, well, Buzz, you're not doing as much. Yeah, maybe I'm doing more because it's creating a groundswell of ownership. And I think that in this model of college athletics, I think that may be one way to solve the puzzle.
Leaders are always learning and keep becoming better leaders, don't they?
Yeah, the best leaders produce more leaders. The best leaders do not produce more followers. The best leaders produce more leaders. Because if you're producing more leaders, that means that they are creating and being given ownership in what you're doing. Having more followers, leadership is not Twitter. Leadership is not Instagram. Everybody wants to have more followers to some degree. But when you're talking about real life traction on the road leadership, you're not trying to create more followers, in my opinion. You're trying to create more leaders. And the best leaders produce more leaders. And so I don't think you can be a learning leader in the truest sense of the word unless you are producing more leaders. Because you're not a learning leader if you're not producing other leaders. That means your ego is preventing you from learning, which is a barrier to your followers becoming leaders.
Is Q's legacy unwritten here at A&M because of For and Mo, guys that he made sure he was going to lead and to take those same lessons?
Yeah, Q was here for about a week. 10 or 12 days ago, I talked to his mom today. She's coming for our game against Oregon State. I think we play Oregon State on a Sunday in December.
Yeah.
And so she's going to fly in Friday after work, and she's one of my favorite people in the world. So I think the legacy that you leave is always in people. And that's why when you see certain organizations, when the leader leaves and the organization continues to thrive, it means that he left his legacy in the people. Sometimes legacy, you think, maybe has to do with inheritance. Like, hey, I left this for my family. I left this for my children. I understand there's value in that, and I'm not taking that away. But the best legacy you can leave is in those people. And in order to leave something in people, you have to invest in people. It doesn't mean you can't give them something. Mm-hmm. But if all you're doing is giving them something, then that's an inheritance. But that's not a legacy. A legacy is what you leave in someone. And I know we're talking about Texas A&M, but I think that applies in any domain. That's not about a basketball team. It's what you leave in someone. And what you leave in someone always has to do with how they feel when they're with you. And how they feel when they're with you is always based on your investment in them, right? Your favorite teacher, whoever that is, maybe they were a good teacher, or maybe they were your favorite teacher because of what they left in you and the belief they had in you. Those are the best teachers. Some of my best teachers, now that I look back at it, they were not good teachers, but they were great leaders because of what they left in me. And I look back and think about the content that they were teaching, and I was like, I don't even remember what they were teaching, but I remember what I learned. And I'm like, oh, thanks. Thanks so much. You changed my life because of your investment in me.
He's Buzz Williams, head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. We'll continue with the Buzz Williams Show. One more segment when we come back. This is Aggie basketball from Learfield. We continue with the Buzz Williams Show, our final segment of the first, second, or third show. We don't know. We'll do
We're
that.
going to talk to Learfield and try to get clarification.
Yes,
we may take
are.
it to legal counsel and let them decide.
Yeah, we just might.
Because all these people can come to my office and we can have a brief radio show and cut out all the commercials, and then we don't need Learfield.
Yeah, but I am petitioning to get all the commercials done at the top, Buzz, and then we just do this podcast.
It would be the best show that
Yeah.
you could have. I finally convinced my guy at Marquette to do that. How many minutes of commercials? 21. Okay, look, I'm going to show up at 7:21, and then we're going to talk for 39 straight minutes and just go right at it. And then it becomes real. It becomes intense. Because just as soon as I get going, I can tell when you start twitching your eyelids. I'm like, oh, commercial's coming. He's trying to be nice.
It's like,
and I can tell. It's like you're having.
It's the old. How do I get all of these in?
I know. So I'm telling you, we just rattle them off.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, I did get two new listeners. How are you watching it? Is this Facebook?
This Facebook, the Texas A&M basketball Facebook page.
You know, my dad and mom, they've become huge fans of you. And
I'm huge fans of them.
Coach
I'm telling you
Thornton.
that right now. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know in Van Alstyne that they had the internet to watch Facebook. They told me they listened to this. I'm like, they're not listening for me, though. They love Monaco. I'm like, oh, geez.
This just made my night.
And I'm like, is he any good? And they're like, you haven't listened to him? I'm like, when am I going to listen to him? When? You want me to rewind that and watch that when I watch the film?
But that's a great point. You're kind of busy when I'm working.
That's why I don't know if you're any good.
That's exactly right.
They swear that you are. And I told them, are y'all watching, listening? Every Monday. I'm like, do you really? Well, thank you. They're like, no, we're not listening for you. It's for Monaco. I'm like, okay.
That's why we have to do 12, because they're listening.
No.
They're doing that.
No, because I'm happy to tell them we don't have to.
I don't know if y'all knew, Buzz joined us in baseball during the regional and then in Omaha during the College World Series.
I'll always remember that.
That was a blast.
I was so happy for Coach Slosh.
Do you know he wants equal time? He wants to come on a basketball broadcast, but we want to get your attention. I know you're coaching, but he wants to get your attention to say, hey.
What we could do is let him coach, and I could come over there and take Coach Thornton's place.
Okay, deal.
Yeah.
Deal.
I would do that tomorrow.
John, you would be very good on TV and radio.
I get bored with it really fast.
Do you?
Yeah.
See, not a studio. I think a game.
I think I would be all right with a game.
Yeah.
But as long as I could be the color.
Right.
But then Corey says I would mess up the commercials. Like you have to go to commercial.
No, not color. Okay. That's up. No, that would be totally up to me. But you, I think you doing a game with a telestrator and being able to teach as you're doing it.
Well, let me do it. Who is do you call the women's game?
No. How many jobs do you want me to have? I have football, basketball, and baseball.
Okay.
I mean,
I was going to say I could call color with Coach Joni's games.
Okay. Yeah.
But But you're not the play-by-play.
No. You know what? You've got Devin. Let Devin coach. Come over and just do a game with
Devin's a better coach than I am for sure.
Ian, I'm apologizing right now. We're never getting to this question. So I'm holding it.
No, this is my guy.
Yeah, it is. Look, I'm going to tell you this right now.
He was like 4'8" the first time he came.
Now he's driving.
This is his fourth year.
Now he's driving. He can come to the show on his own now. Yeah. Yeah.
Good for you.
Ian,
right?
He can come.
I-A-N.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we've got to save this. We've got to save this question because.
What time do we go?
The music's going to play at 57:51.
And that furthers my point. We could have got to Ian's question if we would have played all of the commercials at the beginning.
That's a good point.
And just tell all of these people, just order your food at 7. The show starts at 7:21.
Yeah. I'm going to try to petition. I don't know if they're going to go for it. I'm going to try to petition. 58:21. Don't say anything brilliant because we're off the air at that time.
Okay.
That's why we have that clock.
Okay.
This has been fun.
That's official.
Yes, it is.
It has been good. Thank you.
It's
good to see you guys. Thank you guys very much for coming.
He is Buzz Williams, the head coach of the Fighting Texas Aggies. And I'm pretty proud that Kevin gives me this every year. I'm going to show the Facebook people to make sure I get the right sport. So he writes down basketball. for me when we do the Buzz Williams Show. He is our engineer here at Rudy's. That is Kevin Menchel. Brian Freeman is producing the Buzz Williams Show in our Learfield studios. I'm Andrew Monaco. Again, thank you so much for being out here. It is the exhibition game on Friday, 7 o'clock at Reed Arena. And then next Monday, we will not have a show because that is the first game against Louisiana Monroe, the Aggies, and Louisiana Monroe. GameDay.12man.com is how you can get tickets. For Buzz Williams, for Kevin Menchel, for Brian Freeman, I'm Andrew Monaco. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks and giggles.